Crippler. Ghost twisted and bit down hard on Crippler's bicep. No, Crippler said, locking his second arm across Ghost's chest and pressing down hard with his arms. Ghost bit down harder and ground his teeth till he tasted blood. Damn! Crippler squished down on him. You're a scummy little brat, aren't you? Ghost's jaw felt locked back, about to pop out of joint. Shit! He let go the bite and relaxed his back, hoping that would make Crippler stop. Ghost's neck throbbed around the pressure of the bicep and forearm. He faintly heard his weapon drag, then drop. When it did, Crippler lightened up on his neck, and Ghost felt the cooling rush of fresh blood back into his head. His vision cleared. He took a breath. Crippler was damp with sweat. Ghost felt gritty dirt on his teeth and tongue. How old are you, anyway? Crippler said, dragging him. Ghost didn't answer. Crippler wasn't retaliating for the bite. That was a relief. But why wasn't he being killed? Any reason Ghost could think of was much worse than death. Please, he said hoarsely through his teeth. His throat pressed against Crippler's arm, his chin jammed into the crook of his elbow. Heard of me? Crippler asked. I'm a bit of a legend myself. Ghost tried again to kick Crippler's shins. Yeah, he'd heard of Crippler of the cult. Not good things. Crippler lifted Ghost off his feet, tightening his arm around Ghost's neck. You like that? He said into Ghost's ear, lugging him along so his legs swung. You want more of that? Ghost was unable to answer, but squeaked in a gasp past the constricting arm. His neck warned him that the pressure was dangerous. You want to know why they call me the Crippler? Crippler said. You don't want to know, he added with a laugh. Tap out, Ghost remembered. Wincing, he tapped Crippler's thigh with his right hand. He tapped harder. He was losing consciousness. Finally, Crippler let him breathe. With the blood rushing back in, Ghost felt a living fury growing. Crippler was now among the other cultists. Look what I caught, he boasted. Is that the cursed Ghost himself? Ghost's toes tapped the ground, and he pushed off it to kick at the speaker with a snarl. He didn't hit. Ghost, I will break your legs, Crippler said into his ear. You got that? Ghost grimaced. You want your legs broken? Ghost could hear the pride in his voice as he said it. He let himself be dragged into a small house, almost a hut with only 3 rooms. Connor had told him about these, residences for the elders assigned to each location. Crippler was followed by 6 cultists before he yelled at them to shut the door, and he dropped Ghost. Crippler shoved him down into a chair right behind him. Ghost collapsed into the chair, putting his right hand over his forehead to block his face. He pulled in his injured left hand protectively. He wanted to give up. He looked down at the floor, chest heaving as he caught his breath. So why? A woman said. She had a gravelly voice. Ghost took in the situation with his peripheral vision. 4 cultists leaning against the wall, 2 across from him in comfortable chairs, and Crippler near Ghost. Crippler moved to where Ghost could see him, to the left. He didn't look threatening toward Ghost exactly, but he was puffing his chest toward the door. Why? Crippler repeated. Ghost has been in every major raid in Seattle for the past 2 years. He looked at Ghost. Haven't you? He said. Ghost lifted his chin enough to glance at Crippler's face. The guy was congratulating himself a little, and definitely angry, but not at Ghost specifically. Ghost knew not to answer. There were 100 reasons not to talk. Right now, it was simple enough. He didn't know what to say. Crippler put a hand on Ghost's injured arm, the forearm, and Ghost flinched away, baring his teeth. What happened to this hand? Crippler said. They make you promise not to talk? Are you scared at home? The words sounded disturbingly compassionate. Ghost glanced up with disgust. Because I promise you, Crippler said, they're not as scary as I am. The cultist moved close enough to bring his face right up to Ghost's, flaring his nostrils. He lifted Ghost's arm, watching him flinch. The wrist hurt when it was moved. Crippler didn't look happy anymore. He looked like he was putting every ounce of determination he had into the vice grip on Ghost's wrist. Ghost imagined what would happen if he jabbed him in the eyes. 6 other armed opponents, and that was just on the inside. He didn't want to take the risk. Crippler put a breath into the words, spoken softly so the others couldn't quite catch it. None of this is on you, kid. Don't make me put this on you. Ghost didn't make eye contact. His wrist was trembling in Crippler's grasp. Sweat ran down his temple into his eye. He blinked and licked it off his lips. Any second now, Crippler was going to snap that wrist the rest of the way. The front door opened gently. "Reverend Humble," someone murmured. Everyone moved to stand straight and bow. Crippler dropped the arm and made a quick bow too. Ghost was about to stand. Sitting was a disadvantage, but something stopped him. Reverend Humble's eyes glittered like a star and pierced like the dead. It was like making eye contact with a shade. Or less, but worse. "Just call me Humble," the Reverend patted the guy's arm. "They told me you captured the ghost, Crippler." Humble's eyes glittered at Ghost while he said that. He moved spider-like to the two-person couch to the left of Ghost, so he turned just slightly to continue looking at the boy. Crippler bowed. Ghost saw him make a tooth-grinding motion. He was frustrated. "I believe he is," Crippler said, "but he hasn't said a word since I grabbed him." He shot a look at Ghost like, "Stay quiet." "Starting to wonder if he can even speak." Humble pierced Ghost with a look and a thin smile. "I'm sure he can," Humble said. "Why don't you tell us, young man? What gang sent the ghost?" He leaned forward, folding slender, wrinkled fingers, smiling with his dead eyes. Ghost leaned forward and looked back with his own. They knew two different deaths. Ghost could feel that he was not the same at all. Not moving his eyes from Ghost's, Humble said, "What makes you think he can't speak, Crippler? Surely you haven't started maiming already." Ghost squirmed and shot a nervous glance at Crippler, then back at Humble. Scared as he might be, they weren't going to make him betray the shivers. That brought memories like flashes. High-fiving Ray and the squad. Climbing the torn-up sentry buildings, grasping each other's hands and laughing all the way up the most dangerous ones. It wasn't that he loved them. It was that they were his. Betraying them would be like cutting off his right arm. Those images were interrupted when Crippler grabbed his wrist viciously. Ghost cried out loud, then turned his head down and pursed his lips, digging his right fingernails into the chair. Crippler yanked his arm up roughly. "Not much," he said, "but so far I've got nothing." From his voice, Ghost could tell he was looking at him. He looked back sideways at Crippler. The man's face was wrinkled with anxiety. "You sound like you want to just trade him off to the first taker." Crippler let go of Ghost's hand and turned to Humble. "That's exactly what I think we should do," he said. "Crippler," Humble turned to him. "The Lord has given ye a great blessing. Would ye throw it to the sows?" He would not," Crippler stammered. Humble rose and looked at each person in the room in the eye for an uncomfortable amount of time, with glittering eyes and a sly smile. It vanished when the eyes rested on Ghost. "Do as God would have you, Crippler," Humble said, then left. A girl followed him with her eyes through the peephole, leaving that part of the compound. When she announced, "He's gone," everyone sighed and relaxed. Crippler took a deep breath, clenching his fists and turning to Ghost. "You better talk," Crippler said, licking his lips. "You better fucking talk." The four other cultists came closer slowly, some leaning over others' chairs. Ghost lowered his head. People took this as a submissive gesture, but he was just buying time to think. Crippler didn't miss that, though. "Kid, you don't understand," Crippler glared down at him. "That man is what he wants me to do. You wouldn't even comprehend." Ghost lifted his head and glared back. "Try me."